Everything is about to change. And when it does, you'll finally understand why it took so long. I've already authorized your shift. The sign you've been searching for isn't on its way. It's already been placed. You just didn't know what to call it yet. Stick with me until the end of this video. The sign that God revealed today is right here. And before we finish, you'll receive the protocol to keep the enemy from canceling what's already been sealed in the spiritual realm. I know what you did last night before you fell asleep. It wasn't a pretty prayer with polished words. It wasn't a gratitude list in neat bullet points. It was an inventory. Silent. You laid there in bed and started mentally counting everything that was promised but still hasn't shown up. The provision that should have arrived. The relationship that should have shifted. The door that should have swung open. And you just lay there in the dark, calculating the gap between where you are and where you're supposed to be. That wasn't the first time you took that inventory. You know it by heart. I saw you scrolling too. That quiet moment when you opened your feed and watched someone else move forward. A life change. A project that took off. A promotion. A trip. A breakthrough. And it wasn't jealousy with a name. It was something without a name, but with real weight. The question you never said out loud. What am I doing wrong? Why does it happen for everyone else, but not for me? And there were nights you woke up at 3 a.m. for no reason. The room silent, your body exhausted, but something inside you was wide awake. You stared at the ceiling, not knowing what to do with that state. Tried to go back to sleep. Sometimes you managed. Sometimes you just lay there until daylight crept in. And there was the bathroom moment, the most honest part of your day. Phone in hand, banking app open, and the number on the screen saying one thing while the faith inside you said another. That distance. The one you can't show anyone. The one you close the screen and swallow before walking out into your day like it doesn't exist. You're still standing. That's not nothing. Being the only one who still believes when everyone around you has stopped hoping costs more than anyone on the outside can measure. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong. If you're being heard up above. If it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video. The only one who still believes when everyone around you has stopped hoping costs more than anyone on the outside can measure. The like button is your public amen. Hit it now. Heaven records what you confess out in the open. Now I need to make you 3 promises before we go any further. First, the waiting that's eating you alive is not punishment. It's not being forgotten. It's not a sign that you messed up or that God changed his mind. There's a difference between the decree and the execution, and they are not the same thing. The decree has already been issued. What you're living through right now is the gap between that decree and its execution. And that gap has a purpose that you'll understand before this message ends. Second, the protocol you're about to receive today has 3 movements. They're not 3 things to ask for. They're 3 things to do. And they're going to transform the sign you'll recognize into active positioning, not more passive waiting. Third, by the end of this video, you'll be able to say out loud a sentence that might still feel too big for you right now. You'll say, I recognize the sign, and the movement has already started in me. I placed you here because this word is for you, not for everyone who opened this video. For you. You didn't end up here by accident. Now close your eyes for a second. Don't take off your headphones. Just close your eyes and take a deep breath. What I'm about to tell you doesn't work if your attention is divided. You've been feeling things you don't know how to name. Sensations that show up without warning and leave without explanation. I'm going to name every single one of them right now, and when you recognize them, you'll understand it wasn't confusion. It was communication. The first sign, a sudden discomfort with places that used to feel normal. It might be a location. It might be a group of people. It might be a routine you've had for years that suddenly feels impossible to maintain without sensing something's off. You called it ingratitude or instability. You thought, I should be grateful. Why do I feel this way? Why does what used to work now feel way too small? It's not ingratitude. It's not instability. It's your spirit recalibrating for the next level. What no longer fits isn't a mistake. It's data. It's heaven removing the piece from where you're not supposed to stay anymore, creating enough tension to get you moving. The second sign, dreams about situations that don't exist in your life yet. Places you've never visited, faces you've never seen, roles you've never filled. You'd wake up and think, it's anxiety. It's my subconscious processing stuff my mind hasn't resolved. It's just a dream. It's not just a dream. It's a transmission. Heaven doesn't only use your conscious mind to communicate. When your mind is quiet enough to receive without filtering, I send images of what's been prepared. What you saw while sleeping isn't wishful projection. It's perception of the decree. The third sign, a weight in your chest with no name and no identifiable cause. You wake up with it. You go to sleep with it. It has no address. You don't know where it comes from. And because it has no address, you don't know how to fix it. Sometimes you've wondered, is this depression? Is something wrong with me? Nothing is wrong with you. It's the tension between who you still appear to be and who you've already been assigned to become. It's the pressure that exists when a living thing lives below its actual capacity. It's not sickness. It's compression. The tree that's about to break through concrete feels the weight above it before it breaks through. The fourth sign, the urge to reorganize, drawers that suddenly need to be in order, plans that need to be revised, relationships you've started evaluating differently. The routine you wanted to restructure without really knowing why. You thought, am I being anxious? Am I trying to control what I can't control? It's not anxiety. It's the spirit preparing the space before the content arrives. You don't organize the house after the furniture shows up. You organize beforehand. The urge to reorganize is heaven saying, what's coming needs space, and that space needs to be created right now. Before the next sign, I need you to understand something. What I'm about to reveal is what the enemy spent the most time trying to make you ignore. It's the most powerful of the 5, and that's exactly why he worked hardest to get you to call it something else. The 5th sign, the number 1 sign, the quiet that showed up without warning where there used to be agitation. You were anxious. The situation hadn't changed. The numbers hadn't changed. The circumstance hadn't been resolved. And suddenly, for no apparent reason, a peace settled in. Not euphoria, not excitement. Peace. The kind that has no rational explanation. The kind where you looked around to figure out where it came from and found no source. You were suspicious of it. You thought, is this resignation? Am I giving up on feeling? Am I just numbing myself? No. That peace has a name. It's the confirmation heaven sends when the movement has been sealed in the spiritual realm before it appears in the natural one. The peace didn't arrive because the situation got resolved. The peace arrived because the decision was made upstairs. And when heaven seals something, it sends peace as a messenger before it sends the execution. The number 1 sign isn't the map. It's the confirmation that the movement has already been authorized. Type peace in the comments if one of these signs hit home for you. Just the word Heaven records what you declare openly. Close your eyes for a second. Breathe. What I'm about to tell you doesn't work if your attention is split. One thing at a time. There's a man in Scripture who received a call to move without knowing where he was going. It wasn't a vision with coordinates. It wasn't a map with a route drawn on it. It was an order with an open destination. Go to the land that I will show you. Not to this land right here, with a name and an address. To the one I'll reveal along the way. His name was Abraham. And he left. He didn't wait to see the destination. He didn't ask for total clarity before taking the first step. He didn't negotiate with God for a complete itinerary before packing his bags. He left with the promise that the map would be revealed during the journey, not before it. And heaven didn't consider that reckless. Heaven called it faith, the kind that counts as righteousness. The viewer who still can't see the full map isn't behind schedule. You're exactly the profile of someone God moves first and reveals the path to during the journey. Now think about a tectonic plate. The most transformative movement on the Earth's surface starts invisible. It starts underneath. Pressure builds up over years, sometimes decades. No simple seismograph detects it. The surface looks static. The landscape doesn't change. An outside observer would conclude, nothing is happening here, but underneath the process is complete. The tension has already reached the breaking point. What's about to appear on the surface was already determined down below. The surface doesn't know yet, but the process already knows. When the surface finally moves, it's irreversible. It can't be undone. What looked like stagnation on the outside was actually mobilization on the inside. Both Abraham and the tectonic plate reveal the same law. Visible movement is always the last stage of a process that began in the invisible. What you're experiencing on the outside as waiting is being executed underneath as mobilization. The number one sign is the evidence that the underground process is already complete. Type Abraham in the comments if you left without seeing the map. Or type plate if you felt movement happening underneath before you saw anything on the surface. Let me pause for a full minute. You've made it this far carrying a waiting period that no one around you knew how to validate properly. Maybe they tried. Maybe they said the right things with words that just didn't carry the weight you needed. Or maybe they stopped trying and you learned not to show how much it still weighs on you anymore. You recognized at least one of the 5 signs. And recognizing the sign isn't a coincidence. It's active spiritual perception. You wouldn't have recognized it if you weren't calibrated to receive it. Abraham confirmed, movement doesn't require a prior map. It requires obedience to the sign. The tectonic plate confirmed what looks stagnant on the outside is complete underneath, and the signs you recognized confirm. The underground process in your case has already reached the breaking point. Whoever has made it this far didn't get here by accident. I saw the inventory you took last night, the mental list you reviewed in the dark before sleep. What was promised and still hasn't arrived, counted in silence with no witness. I saw the waking up at 3 in the morning, the quiet room and the spirit lit up while your mind had no idea why. In those hours, you thought you were alone. You weren't. In those hours, I was closer than at any other time of day. Because in those hours, you stopped performing faith and just sat with faith itself. What you've carried isn't evidence of abandonment. It's evidence that there's something big enough to require this level of preparation. You don't prepare for the ordinary with this kind of process. What you're about to hear isn't a human title. It's what I call you when I talk to heaven about you. The first identity. You are sign bearer. God saw what you did when the sign wasn't visible yet. You held on to faith without evidence, without results, without external validation. You kept believing when everyone around you had already calculated that the waiting was pointless. And the one who holds on before seeing is exactly the one heaven trusts with the sign first. I don't deliver confirmation to someone who needs confirmation before believing. I deliver it to someone who already believes before receiving the confirmation. What this identity authorizes Stop questioning whether what you feel is real. The sign you recognize today, Kimigam, isn't imagination. It isn't wishful projection. It's direct communication, and you have the authority of a bearer to receive it as such. The second identity. You are the mobilized one. God saw the internal reorganization that started before any circumstance changed. The peace that arrived with no obvious reason. The discomfort with what no longer fits. The urge to reorganize what needs space. These things started internally before any external evidence appeared. That wasn't coincidence. It was the process of internal mobilization happening beneath the surface. The mobilized one doesn't wait for circumstances to change before starting to move. The mobilized one is already moving internally while the external world hasn't caught up yet. What this identity authorizes: stop waiting for external permission to start positioning yourself. The mobilization has already happened inside. The external movement is the last stage of a process you've already completed. The third identity. You are pioneer of the next level. God saw where you're going to end up. And I'm going to tell you what I see. You're going to reach places that no one in your history has ever reached before. Not because of accumulated merit from perfect effort, because of a decree that existed before your formation. Before you existed, the destination already existed, and the pioneering spirit that requires you already carry. It's not something you're going to develop. It's something you're going to recognize. What this identity authorizes: carry that pioneering spirit without apologizing for moving forward when others stayed behind. It's not abandonment. It's a calling, and the calling carries its own authority. Type in the comments the name of the identity that hit you the hardest. Just the name. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes after this message. Now, here comes the protocol. It's called the protocol of the first move, and it has 3 steps. They're not 3 things to ask for. They're 3 things to execute. Step 1, name the sign. Today, before you go to sleep, you're going to do one simple thing. You're going to grab paper, or you're going to say it out loud, alone, before you lie down. And you're going to say which of the 5 signs you recognized. By name. With words. Because naming the sign is receiving it as communication, not dismissing it as coincidence. What doesn't have a name can be ignored. What has a name has been received. And what has been received has power. Step 2. Clear the space. You're going to identify one thing. Just one. A habit, a relationship, an environment, or a thought that clearly doesn't belong in the next season. You already know what it is. You don't need much time to identify it. You already know. And you're going to make the decision to let it go. Not tomorrow. Today. Movement asks for space before it asks for effort. You cannot receive what's been prepared while the space is occupied by what's left over from the previous season. Step 3. Declare the identity. You're going to choose one of the 3 identities you just received. Sign, bearer, the mobilized one, pioneer of the next level. And you're going to declare it out loud. Not as a wish, as someone receiving instruction. The declaration isn't a request to heaven. It's the confirmation to heaven that you've received. And confirmation is the spiritual act that activates what has been decreed. The sign that the protocol was executed correctly won't be euphoria. It won't be hurry. It won't be an accelerated urgency that makes you want to run somewhere. The sign of confirmation is the quiet, the peace that stays after the declaration. The same peace that arrived with no apparent reason as the number 1 sign. It will come back after the protocol. And when it comes back, you'll recognize it. Type received in the comments if you're going to do the protocol tonight. Just the word, that's enough. Now I need to warn you about what's coming in the next 72 hours. In the next 72 hours, 3 things are going to be launched against you. Not as a possibility, as a certainty. The enemy doesn't attack what has no value. The fact that these 3 tactics are going to show up is itself a confirmation of what has been sealed, but you need to know them by name before they arrive. The first tactic, paralyzing analysis. It comes disguised as prudence. It's going to arrive as a voice that sounds responsible. You need to understand this better before you move. You don't have enough clarity yet. You should study more, pray more, wait for more confirmations. As if the sign needs intellectual approval to be legitimate. As if the peace you received needs to pass through the committee of reasoning before it's valid. Abraham didn't understand the destination before he left. He left, and understanding came during the journey. The second tactic, speed comparison. It comes disguised as discernment. It's going to point at someone who moved before you. So-and-so is already there, and you're still here. As if someone else's stopwatch is the measure of your decree. As if the timeline of another person's calling defines the deadline for yours. The pioneer's decree doesn't have a comparative deadline. It has its own timing, and that timing doesn't answer to anyone else's rhythm. The third tactic, demand for total clarity. It comes disguised as responsibility. You need to see the complete destination before taking the first step. You can't move without knowing where you'll end up. It deliberately ignores what the 2 narratives revealed. It ignores Abraham. It ignores the tectonic plate. Because if you remember that visible movement is always the last stage of a process already completed in the invisible, the demand for prior clarity loses all its power. And there's also the internal enemy, which is the most dangerous of the 4. Because it has your voice. It's going to say that the peace you felt isn't confirmation. It's naivety. It's going to say the quiet is irrational optimism. That you're convincing yourself of something that doesn't exist. That mature people don't interpret internal sensations as spiritual signs. That sudden peace is emotional anesthesia disguised as spirituality. But you already know the name of that peace. And knowing the name is the defense. Type protected in the comments. The decree has been sealed. Now put your right hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. Feel your feet touching the ground. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath once and stay like that for 10 seconds before continuing. Now I'm going to ask you to hand over 3 things. First, the nightly inventory. That list you make in the dark before sleep. What was promised and still hasn't arrived, counted in silence. Tonight, you're not going to take that inventory anymore. You're going to hand over the list. Not because you're going to stop believing, but because someone who has received the sign no longer needs to audit the decree. The decree has already been issued. The audit is unnecessary. Second, the doubt about whether the sign was real or imagination. The need for external validation of what heaven has already confirmed. You're going to release that need. The sign was received. Peace was sent. You recognized it. And recognition doesn't need approval from anyone who didn't receive the same sign. Third, the weight of waiting alone, while others doubted. The cost of being the only one who still believes. You've carried that longer than you should have, and you're going to release it now. Not because the waiting wasn't real, because it has already accomplished what it needed to accomplish. Now I speak to you. I saw the nights, every single one of them. I saw the inventory you took in the dark, the list of what still hasn't arrived, reviewed in silence with no witness. You thought you were alone in that moment, that it was a weakness you hid from others, an honesty that cost you dearly but couldn't be shown. I was in those nights, not as a distant observer. I was there, more present than in any celebration, more present than in any moment you performed faith for an audience. I saw the waking up at 3 a.m, the quiet room, the ceiling you know in the dark, the state that had no name. In those hours, your spirit knew what your mind couldn't yet name. And I was in that waking. Because in those hours, you were without defense, without script, without construction. Just you, and just you was enough for me to work. Those nights weren't abandonment. Those nights were preparation. You don't prepare for the ordinary with this level of internal process. You don't forge a pioneer in total peace. A pioneer is forged in tension, in waiting, in nights without answers, in 3 in the morning awakenings that make no sense, in inventories taken in the dark while everyone else sleeps. You were being prepared in the hours when it looked like nothing was happening. The number 1 sign didn't come as a surprise to me. I sent it before, way before. And I sent the peace along with it because the movement was sealed. What you felt wasn't resignation. It was the confirmation that heaven has already signed the decree. Peace was the messenger, and the messenger has arrived. From waiting to movement, from invisible to visible, from inventory to declaration, from isolation to calling. It is done. Now say it out loud before you write anything. The sign has arrived. I move. Say it again with more force. The sign has arrived. I move. Type done in the comments right now. Just the word. Heaven records what you declare openly. And there's someone in your contact list who is carrying the same nightly inventory you are carrying when you open this video. Someone who also wakes up at 3 in the morning with no name for what they feel. Someone who is also waiting without validation, believing without evidence, holding on without applause. Send this video to that person right now. Not tomorrow. Right now. Because the sign that arrived for you is also destined for them. The next video on this channel has the message that comes after this one. Don't miss it. You are not the same person you were when this message began. It is done. What was delivered here has been delivered. You seek. You dedicate yourself. You do everything right, and yet abundance never comes. And the worst part? You start wondering if you're doing something wrong. If you're being heard up above. If it's meant for you at all. It's not a lack of faith or worthiness. It's a spiritual blockage that ordinary prayer alone cannot break. The Miracle Journal unblocks this in 21 days with a spiritual protocol that works exactly where your prayer doesn't reach. Along with the journal, you'll also receive as a gift the prayer guide and the Psalms manual with the most powerful sacred practices and texts to deepen your transformation. To claim your version of the journal, tap the link in the comments right below this video.